Welcome to Confessions of a Stenographer, where we will focus on all things steno and the state of our profession. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Shanice Day, founder of Steno in the City, the Steno Experience, and this podcast. I hope you all are doing well out there and staying safe. We are now in the final quarter of 2021, and what a year it has been. Oh my goodness, you guys, what a year. Are you feeling tired, overworked, and overwhelmed? Do you feel like you are working two jobs? And what I mean by that, are you spending all day at a depot or in court? And when you get home, you have to, return home and scope your own work. A wonderful reporter by the name of Ms. Brenda Counts, she advised, and she has spent over 52 years in the business. And she said that a reporter should only have one main job, and that is writing on your machine. You should not have to spend a lot of time on the back end, meaning scoping and proofing, right? If this is you and you are ready to work smart and not hard, this episode is going to be just for you. That's right. Are you ready to learn how to delegate some of your work? Keyword, delegate, right? Let's get into this next episode on how you can delegate with Stenovate. I just love that phrase. About 2 weeks ago, I was presenting at the North Carolina Court Reporters Association, and one of my slides talked about quality, right? And so I came up with that phrase like right on the spot, delegate with Stenovate. So for new professionals, it is highly recommended that you scope your own work in your first few years. But for the veterans that are tired, overworked, and overwhelmed, this episode is just for you. Our next guest is the founder of Stenovate, a platform that can change your life. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Lauren. Hey, Lauren, welcome to the podcast. Are you ready to confess or what?
Oh yeah, Shanice, let's do it.
Yay. Okay, so tell us all about who is Lauren Lawrence.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I am a freelance stenographer in Kansas City. Some of you may also know me as the founder of Stenovate because I'm also at the conventions, usually in a vendor booth. I am, let's see. Well, let me tell you about my significant other real quick. His name is John. He's a performance mindset coach, which is so cool. I always think of him and Anna Fatima Costa as being like similar people. So if you know her, I feel like they'd be best friends. So he trains corporate leadership teams and college and professional sports teams. And he has 2 kiddos. And so I totally claim them. And they are still sleeping right now. It's morning time with their late sleepers. And they are 18 months apart, 11 and 13 right now. And so I became an unexpected soccer mom when I started dating John. And I just love it. So that's a little bit about me personally. And then I live for food. Anytime I can be eating something delicious, I'm so excited. So I also love cooking. And I swear I like garden only to be cooking. So like if I can grow my veggies and stuff. So yoga, reading, just anything in that area, I just love. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. And I am a foodie too. So tell us, how did you get into stenography? Did you have a dream job in the legal profession before discovering steno?
No, actually, I feel like I worked every job as like a high school student. Like I was a CNA in a nursing home and I waitressed, and I kind of looked into all these different professions. And, in high school, they put so much pressure on you to decide what you want to do. And you got to decide because you got to apply for college. And I wasn't finding anything I loved, but I loved words and I loved to read. And after like realizing how much I really don't like math and science and that side of nursing, I was like, man, I got to figure it out. And my mom one day, I was telling her, I'm a really fast typist, like on a keyboard. And I was like crushing that class because my dad and brother are huge nerds. And so I grew up around computers. And my mom was like, you should be a stenographer. I have a friend that her daughter does it and she makes bank. And then I found out about captioning and that was another opportunity. And so I was just absolutely all about that. The fact that I could like move anywhere and actually like stay with the same company and not have to switch up jobs. So I actually got into steno because of the opportunity to caption. And then when I was in school and dabbling like with that more, I realized I really just love people and interaction and being around people, and freelance just sounded like my jam. And so I loved the flexibility and I just was totally sold.
We have so much in common. Yes, we really we do, because I love people. I love people. And I never really had a chance to talk about how I got into steno, but in high school, you're right, it was so much pressure. I know for me, I had a typing class, and if you were able to create a perfect typing test, as close as perfect, then you would be considered to work in a law firm. And so I was the winner. And so I worked for a law firm. And so I had all my credits for high school. So I think it was called OWE at that time. And so I would go to school half of the day, and then I would work the other part of the day. And so I had all my credits. And so we'll get into this later, but yeah, I grew up very, at an early age. So working, paying, it was just a lot. But let me stay on topic, because I love talking. I love getting to know people. Like, Lauren, you are just so amazing. And let's just go ahead and get into this interview.
Gosh.
Yeah, because I'll keep going on and on. What was schooling like? Did you go to a brick and mortar, or did you do the online schooling?
I did go to a brick and mortar. It was funny when I decided to go into steno, like you get looking around and you're like, oh, this is not, quote unquote, typical college, right? So I started looking at all these different schools for court reporting, and I fell in love with like the idea of going to Colorado for court reporting. And so my mom and I even drove out there and looked at the school. And I was like dead set on it. And my mom convinced me to at least look at one other school. And there was a school in Iowa, in Des Moines, called AIB College of Business. And you could actually get a bachelor degree there. And so my mom thought that was a really good idea. And I I don't know, wasn't as sold that like I needed that necessarily from what I had been told after doing some research. But then she made me go visit, and it actually had housing on campus. And I was like, oh my God, it's a real college experience. Like I can actually hang out with other students, not just like drive to school and leave, it's like, no, it's like drive to school, go to school, stay at school, so that got me excited. Again, I love people, right? So I ended up in Iowa instead of beautiful Colorado, and Iowa ended up being absolutely awesome. If there are students listening, I will tell you that school, unfortunately, has closed, but they reopened that program at DMAC. It's called Des Moines Area Community College. And so a lot of the same instructors like went over and everything. And the program is phenomenal. Like, I don't know, just greatest teachers, great graduation rate. I had the best experience with school.
That is so amazing. And not only that, I can just only imagine what it was like staying on campus for court reporting. I know when I first started, I was commuting 3 hours away. Here in the Bay Area, our traffic is horrible. Yeah. So I would get off work and then drive 3 hours to school, and then drive 3 hours. Like, it was just a lot. Being on campus to do this, Lauren, so you really had that college experience. It just wasn't like,
yeah. And it was a business school. So there were other classes and stuff. And that's one thing I really, really, really wish court reporting students could get more of, is like that business side of things. Cause you get out of school and you're like, well, now I'm an awesome court reporter, but nobody taught me how to like run a freelance business. Right. And so that's one of the things that like I get really passionate about too, is just like, how do we learn how to run a team of people if we need like scopists and proofreaders, and we can talk about that more later. But, how do you be like a good leader, like for other people, for yourself? Like, how do you run a great business as a court reporter? So,
And
that's,
you
yeah.
I'm taking notes because this sounds like a seminar session waiting to happen.
I'm all about it. I'm happy to help.
Hey, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to testing. How important is certification? And share with us what your testing was like, as after you graduated from school and you were in test mode, prepping
Oh my
for
gosh.
the RPR. And I remember not too long ago you made a post in ECRS, the Facebook
Yeah.
encouraging court reporting group, and you made a post, and I was just like, wow, this is so amazing. I can totally relate to this. So do you want to share what that post was and how important is
Gosh.
certification?
Honestly, I don't know if I specifically remember what I said in that one, but I'm sure, I'm just sharing my story. So you're going to get a similar version, maybe with a different flavor from that post.
Mm-hmm,
But,
mm-hmm.
but essentially, first of all, you ask how important is certification. I think it is so, so important. It's what sets us apart. And I am in full support of like states that require certification and ones that accept reciprocity for NCRA certification. I'm all about that too. I'm so happy that NCRA, has the different layers too with the RPR and RMR and the CRR. And, I really believe that certification is a critical part of our profession and keeps the standards high. I will tell you, I was a terrible test taker. I feel like at the end of school, I wouldn't say at that time yet, I felt like I could write like the wind, but I remember passing my last, we call them takes. I don't know if every school does, but passing my last take. And I don't think I breathed for that 5 minutes. And when it was done, I was trembling and I like had to like lean forward and put my head between my legs because I was sure I was going to pass out. And it was just crazy. And then that pattern unfortunately kind of continued for me as I continued to take tests. And luckily, so I live in Kansas City where it's kind of like on a border. Well, it is on a border. So the Kansas side and the Missouri side. And luckily, both states have a temporary certification for newbies out of school. So they give you 2 years to pass your state test, but they actually let you start working. But then if you don't have your test passed in those 2 years, then you're cut off. And you can still do certain things if you have your notary, like I can't remember what they're called. I want to call them CEUs, and that's not right, but it's like examinations under oath of some sort for like insurance stuff. And it's just not ideal by any means, especially if you want to be making decent money, because of course the higher paying stuff you need the certifications for. And so, continued to be like my very anxious test taker self. And I did end up luckily passing the RPR in 2016. And I'm a huge fan of testing from home. So I know a lot of people like gripe at NCRA for, the proctor did this or this went wrong or we had a technical problem. But I am such a big fan of the fact that you can take it from home multiple times rather than only getting 2 in-person brick and mortar opportunities per year. Like that was my nightmare. And so I ended up passing the RPR from home, which, yeah, I had some technical hiccups too. There, NCRA was great to work with. We got it worked out and I ended up passing it. And Kansas accepts reciprocity for the RPR. So then I was allowed to work in Kansas and do all the fun things. And then I was still really struggling with the Missouri side, and they don't accept reciprocity. And my wonderful significant other, as I mentioned, he's a performance mindset coach, and he sat down with me and, we talked about, well, what's going on. And, I just explained everything about like my emotions that happen during these tests and how it like takes over my body.
Mm-hmm.
And, and he was like, Lauren, okay, let's take a breath. And he's like, well, try this. He's like, can you try to think of your emotions as wild horses? And I thought that was like crazy at first. I'm like, what do you mean? My emotions are not wild horses. And he's like, no, they totally are. And he's like, and wild horses are supposed to run, right? Like that's in their nature, like adrenaline and cortisol and like all those chemicals, like those are natural parts of like your body and natural parts of horses. And like they're supposed to run free and they are beautiful and they are good. And, so he like kind of was coaching me through this whole, like my emotions are wild horses thing. And I started doing that. And like anytime I was feeling anxious, not just about steno, but actually anything, I started to recognize that your emotions are your friends and that you just need to like let them run. And it actually feels really good. Like if you start to feel yourself getting nervous, a lot of times people resist that. And you shouldn't. You should actually just like let it flow, like actually like go deeper into it. Like don't resist it, like lean in. And so I'm just babbling now, but I hope this is really helpful because it is like it was the game changer for me, for anybody dealing with test anxiety. And so I started utilizing that in the testing scenario. And instead of like when it started coming and getting all like anxious about being anxious, which is crazy, but that's what we do in the test environment. It's like, oh my God, I can tell I'm starting to get nervous. And that's when everything falls apart. And then you're nervous about being nervous. And so this was the shift for me that was like, no, here come the horses, right? Like they're stampeding in and I'm like, let's go. Like I'm running with them. I'm free. And so it was just like the weirdest, craziest thing to like lean into those emotions instead of trying to like push them down. And so I think if students or anybody trying to pass NCRA tests can lean into that, I really believe it's like a complete game changer.
Right. And going back to what you said about, the whole testing online, I'm a big fan of it too. I could not imagine going to a location and that whole setup, setup, it just gives me anxiety just thinking about it. So I am a fan with online testing. I have so many stories that I can talk about with the proctors, but I think, what I had started to do was let me jot down everything and maybe this will help someone. And what I would do, oh my goodness, there's been times where my system decided to update in the middle of, the test and me losing the proctor, having to sign back on and, they were able to give me another chance or waiting 2 hours for a proctor to show up. What I've learned is find, in those moments, and this is just for me, it doesn't discredit, what anybody else does, but for me, I have other friends that are going to be testing, right? So don't get on social media and just let that be your outlet. What I would do is text, a few of, mentors and say, hey, this is what is going on, help me, and they would assist. And then I would send an email to our NCRA and tell them, can you go ahead and review the recording? This is what took place. The proctor did not show up. They would review it. It would take a while because it's not a lot of people on the back end. That's, it's the staffing is small when it comes to grading a test. A lot of us, we wait to that last minute to test. So they are, overwhelmed. So I would eventually get an answer. It would take a while, but I would still get, a follow-up advising that, okay, we reviewed the tape. You can go ahead and, retest, right? It was an issue with the proctor. So I'm a big fan of reaching out to NCRA first and letting them settle it before, running to social media, because what you do is you are creating anxiety for those other people that still have to test within a week, right? I mean, to each his own, but for me, that's just what I choose to do. So, I won't interfere with, those other test takers that are coming up. But anyway, enough of that. And speaking of that, the retention policy, oh my goodness, we are now down to the wire with the retention policy. I want to say last year I started including it into my podcast steno news that you can use, because I am going to be affected by this. And I, knew this back in 2018. And I said, oh, that's a lot of time. I'll definitely have my RPR by then, right? I'm going to have all my legs passed. I can do this. And then here we are in 2021, and I do not have all of my legs passed. So I will lose my test, and I have accepted it. Do I like it? No, but life has, with it from 2018 all the way till now, dealing with my injuries. I haven't been on my machine since March. I deal with inflammation, for those that don't know. So I can't write, right? But for those that are going through it, that, I feel for them. I wish we could. I actually can see it on both sides. For those that, the anxiety, life happens, things happen, circumstances, we can't change it. You have people that have all three of their legs done and they just need to pass that written, or you just have one person that, they just need that one test, right? And I just feel for them, and I just, so what is your take on the retention policy?
Yeah. I think that a lot of people struggle with change, right? But I really believe that NCRA, they didn't make that decision lightly. Like, I know that for sure. And that was coming down from like advisement from a council, because that, like the Bar Association and other entities, organizations somewhat like NCRA, they have those kinds of policies in place too. And I just think NCRA is doing their absolute best. And I think a lot of people maybe like weren't paying attention to it, even though that information was out there. But I think people don't really start paying attention to it, like you said, until like the deadline is here. And so then people are upset, and it's like, listen, I get it. Like, that is rough. Like, if your legs, I always want to say, if your legs are falling off, it's really not ideal. Right. But at the same time, like there's a reason that they're doing it. And, I think they deserve some grace. And I just, I'm such a big fan of everything that they do to support our profession.
Right.
And so I know it has to happen sometime. Right. And that's the bummer, is like, well, when does it take effect? And so it's happening now, and you can use the horses are running wild technique to go get it done. You still have a little time. And so I'm all about that, because certification it opens doors. And so I'm going to have a little like humble brag here. Okay. So got those certs. I used that horses, running wild technique, and got that Missouri test. And it was like, after that point, a couple years into reporting, I would say maybe, year 4 or 5 is like when I feel like I really hit my stride as a freelancer. And I got crazy opportunities to go do really fun things as a reporter. So I hope students are listening, because like one day I got a phone call that it was an agency that I work for that I just love working for them. They're amazing. The boss man called me, and he was like, hey, could you grab your passport and your steno machine and be on a plane in like 4 hours? And I was like, yeah, where am I going? So I like ran home and packed and flew to Italy. So flew into Milan, and then took a cab up to this really cute town called Domodossola. And just like, that was one of the best experiences. So it was like, rough draft, real time, like took all my iPads, like that kind of stuff is like, oh my God, like talk about the dream. Right. And then another time I went to Peru a couple times.
Oh my God, Lauren, I am so sorry, but you were killing me. I want to cry, because I've always had that vision of me just traveling the world with steno. And
it's so fun, you guys. Oh my God. And like, that's the kind of doors that they're there. And then, so like I said, Peru was amazing, especially because it was interpreted and I was streaming real time back to St. Louis. And And it was so much fun because it was interpreted. So it was like slow. My real time was so clean. I mean, it was, I don't know, just awesome, awesome. And then I know like I've done some court work actually. And this is so weird, but they sent me to Arkansas and I'm not certified in Arkansas and they do have certs. And so it was weird though, because I was only there to provide real time and rough drafts. So the reporter that was in that small courthouse, like she didn't do those things. And so they actually just took me down there just to do the real time and roughs. And then so I didn't need to be certified because I wasn't producing the final transcript, which was really goofy that there was two reporters, but it was again, super fun. But then what got crazy is the official reporter got sick and they were going to have to cancel trial. And they ended up finding these, I don't know, I always say the legal stuff wrong. Like I'm really good at writing the words. I'm always good at like saying them right. But like some policy that allowed me to be sworn in as a temporary official in Arkansas for like 60 days or something crazy. So I got to do that. And of course that trial ended up in a mistrial and I did have to produce the final transcript. So I got some like fun official experience, even though that is like not my cup of tea, but it was just like those sorts of weird things that you do as a freelancer. And you're like, well, now I'm an official for 60 days in Arkansas. Like what?
Oh my goodness. I just love these stories. I really do. Italy, Lauren. Oh my goodness.
I know. It's so, so fun. Yes.
I get excited with Isaiah. You know, Isaiah, he'll go to Florida, he'll, you know, be in Texas and he's just doing these amazing depots.
Yeah, it is so fun. Oh, took a private jet one time to Texas. Yep. For I had to go into a jail, like some big I mean, and I've been to jails around Kansas City too, but this one was different, but it was just like another wild experience. But I got to fly with this bigwig attorney in his little private jet. You know, there's like with the videographer. It's just crazy, like what you get to do. So just, you know, go out there, get those tests done and go have fun.
Oh my god. See, you know what? I've been putting off, my doctor would like for me to do these x-rays and I've been putting it off because I don't know what, you know, is going to happen, but you just encouraged me to go ahead and take this, do these x-rays. Right. But then, okay. So a private jet, Lauren. So this is the first, I've never heard of that. And
I don't talk about it often. I don't say those kinds of things. Like,
oh my goodness, if this is not motivation, right? It's especially for those that, you know, want that, you know, that life of just being a freelancer with just endless opportunities. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
I'm still stuck on the whole Italy thing because I would love to go there and you went there to work.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yes. So let me ask you this. So as a freelancer, did you ever feel like you were working hard but not smart? Did you ever feel overwhelmed? Well, we just heard all of the great things. So were there any, you know, a point where, you know, you felt overwhelmed, overworked? And if so, what did you decide to do about it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now you're really speaking my language because I feel like I spent a good portion of my 20s as a newer reporter being pretty overwhelmed, you know, even when I wasn't taking a ton of work yet, just because like getting into things and like just, you know, navigating everything for the first time being new. But then like, you know, you kind of hit a stride where it's like, okay, actually I've got this now. But now, like, especially now, like today, you know, the industry is just so busy. And that's the way it was even pre-COVID for me. And I loved the agency that I worked for, but I'm like, you guys need to quit calling me. Cause they were like, can you like cover this job? Can you cover that job? And I'm like, you guys, not if you want me to turn in anything on time. And they're like, we'll give you an extension if you just take more work. And I'm like, guys, like I have no life. All I do is I report, I come home, I scope, I proof, I turn it in, I report, you know, and it was just like this cycle. And I was making money. I was so happy to be like starting to pay off my student loans and, you know, all of that stuff. But I had no life. Like friends ask you to go out and you're like, no, you know, and then I feel like there's so many like moms out there today as court reporters that are doing that. And I mean, it's just rough, and like, you need to self-care. So anyway, that I would say like, yes, I definitely have experienced that and just been in the like grind and kind of on the like mouse wheel or whatever you want to call it, just spinning and going and running as fast as you can as a reporter. And so I realized that my solution to that was to learn how to find help. First of all, like I recognize like, okay, I think I'm ready to start using a scopist. I feel like my dictionary is in a decent state. We're constantly building that, but I realized I needed to find a scopist and proofreader. And I, kind of made my own duct tape system of like the business side of things. So I had a big Excel spreadsheet that I kept track of everything. So how many pages it was, if I was going to use a scopist or a proofreader, who had that job, and like, when is it due back from them in order for me to either proof it and get it in, or to give it to the proofreader. And then for me to have time to do a final review and the indexing. And, so like I kept track of all of this in an Excel spreadsheet, and I was finding help on Facebook, which I hated. And not because, like those moderators of the Facebook groups where you find scopists and proofreaders, they do an amazing job. They do their best with like the tools that they're given on Facebook, but Facebook is not designed for hiring help. Like there's nothing there to really like, I don't like hiring people when it's like, all I have to go off of is a profile picture of your dog, so then I have to spend all this time vetting people and, like trying to do little test transcripts with them and like, making sure I get their rate sheet. So, I went through that, and probably went through quite a few scopists and proofreaders too, as you kind of like find who meshes with you and who does really good help. And it was a massive pain to like build that team that way, but I did. And I found amazing people at the end of the day. And then, duct taped everything else together. Like, okay, we're going to use Dropbox for transferring files, and we're going to communicate via email or Facebook Messenger and all that different stuff. But eventually, I got a system in place, and every court reporter does. Like, even though there was no tools for that, all that business side of things, and finding great help, like we all do it when we need to, and we're savvy, we get it done. So that's what I did. And that made a huge difference. Like having a support, I won't say a support team, but they're not like support. They're like your transcript partners, scopists and proofreaders. So I think that's the saving grace for court reporter sanity.
Right. So I'll circle back. And I said this in my opening, but I'll say it again. Brenda Counts, reporter for she's going into her 53rd year. And gosh. Said, I know, and she's still going, but she said she works when she wants to work, right? She said when she's not traveling or she doesn't have anything going on, then she'll, take a job. But she said, and then we'll get into this later, she said that a reporter should pretty much only have one job, and that's writing on your machine. Amen. You shouldn't have to spend your time working two jobs, right? So we'll definitely get into that. And then where are we finding our scopists? Because you're right, social media is not the place to vet. Actually, LinkedIn too. Well, I want to say, for some profiles on LinkedIn, I had a friend that hired a scopist, and she was one of those that she scoped her own work. She did not want to, get one, but then jobs are coming in. So she said, okay, let me just try a scopist out. She hired the scopist, and the scopist pretty much went ghost. She had every excuse in the book. Her family, this, her cat, her car. It was just everything, right? And Brenda Counts, I want to say she spoke about this on Clubhouse. And yes, we have stenographers on Clubhouse having these type of conversations to help others. But she said, I remember her saying, you are a business first. So all of that extra
Yes.
stuff, all of these excuses, okay, I'm not turning my transcript over to you. It's not going to work. So where I want to know, like, where are we finding our scopus? I know for me, I mean, not that I'm looking for scopus, but one valuable tool that I hope everyone can get into because I love it. I really, 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 really love the source book, which is now ProLink. That is a good source to find who you are looking for within the profession. So outside of the Facebook groups or LinkedIn, do you have any advice where people can look? Well, you know what? Steno lovers, we're going to take a commercial break because we are going to get into that. You are not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a second.
Are you a former court reporting student, transcriptionist, retired court reporter, had an injury and can't write? Your experience and knowledge is valuable. How so? We need more qualified scopists and proofreaders in our industry. My name is Rachel Artis. I started a mini boot camp for people just like you. You don't need a full course, but you need real-world, practical training on scoping or proofing. Join me for a 3-day intensive on software, scoping or proofing, and most importantly, how to get the right clients for you. After the 3-day boot camp, receive 750 to 1,500 practice pages and feedback on your progress for 30 days. On Instagram, DM me at scoping_coach or send a message to my Facebook page titled Scoping Coach. Seats are limited and fill up quick.
Welcome back, Steno lovers. And now we are going to get into a platform that can, if you're that reporter that's overwhelmed, overworked, tired, exhausted with the profession, and you want to reclaim and get back into it and start having free time, we have an answer for you. Let's get into Stenovate. Lauren, what is Stenovate and why was it created?
Okay, so let me preface this by saying that I feel like it's a common misconception that people think Stenovate is like a scoping and proofing shop, which we are not. So people think like they can just send us a transcript and we're like a little team of scopists and proofreaders that turn around and send it back. And that is not at all what we do. Stenovate is a platform that is a community. So it's like a professional network. You can kind of think of it like the LinkedIn, but it's just for us. So to the point earlier, we're talking about all these Facebook groups, and that's just where court reporters live. Like we're all in, I think I'm in like 80 plus court reporting groups because I love all things steno, but it's crazy town. And it's not meant to be like a professional tool. It's meant for community and chatting and sending memes and all that stuff. And so Stenovate actually allows you to find quality help, kind of like those Facebook groups, but yet very different because we're actually a professional tool designed for that and not just limited to Facebook's functionality, but we're really a twofold platform. So it's not just come in and find a scopist or proofreader. It's also a project management tool. And I feel like people hear project management tool, for court reporters, if you haven't worked in a corporate setting, like myself, actually, I was actually not really familiar with project management tools at all because I went straight into freelancing. And yeah, there's all these like efficiency tools or, things out there, but like I hadn't really utilized one with a team of people before court reporting. And so people like, how to explain this? Let me digress for a second. Corporations always have a tool that they like manage projects with a team of people, but usually it's like the bigwig CEO person decides we're going to use this tool, and then the whole team is on the same system. So everything gets like really streamlined and everybody knows who's handling what and what the deadlines are and all of that. And all these other industries use those kinds of tools, but court reporters don't we don't have a CEO that just hands us a tool and then like we are the CEO, right? Like as a freelancer or it doesn't matter if you're official or freelance, but you're the like boss of your own projects, AKA transcripts. And so that is what Stenovate is we're this twofold, quote unquote, freelance marketplace, which is like Upwork, or that might not be a familiar term, but like Indeed.com or like Angie's List or like Monster.com, anything that helps you connect with other professionals, that's called a freelance marketplace. And so that's what Stenovate is this freelance marketplace plus project management tool. So if you find help in Stenovate, you can actually do all the collaboration directly in Stenovate too. So you don't need all those other tools that we duct tape together, like communicating through email and then sending files through Dropbox. It's just everything under one roof. So you can find help and then collaborate all in one system. So that is what it is.
I love it. So if you're looking for a quality Scopus, you can plug in with Stenovate and connect.
Yes, exactly. And we have reporters who have come in and tried it, and then they'll be like, I already have a Scopus that I love, but I want one more, or I have a proofreader that I love, and I want to find a Scopus, or, whatever the situation is. And the court reporters will actually bring their teammates into Stenovate too, just to get everything like under one roof. And then they can quit digging through their emails because everything's in Stenovate, and they don't need to like create a bunch of different folders for different people in Dropbox and all of that stuff. Just everything is under one roof. So I think the real powerhouse court reporters, shout out to like Mike Hensley, the California Court Reporter Association president right now. Love him. He is one of our power users and runs an awesome team of Scopus and proofreaders. There are so many reporters like that who are like, I know what this whole delegation thing is about. I get why people do it. And I'm going to like optimize the system. So like Mike doesn't have to turn down jobs and stay home to do the quote unquote homework. He's just cranking out pages and, getting great quality help. And I mean, so he's got like his people now that he works with. So he's not looking for help anymore. He just runs the whole operation right inside Stenovate, and everybody knows like when everything is due, how many pages everything is. He can add details like what, testimony type it is, like asbestos or car accident, personal injury, like, if his audio quality is good, if he had a clean writing day or a bad writing day, anything that he wants to convey to his Scopus and proofreaders and like drop in notes or whatever, and then upload those files. And there's even a special place to upload exhibits or other helpful documents like notice of deposition or whatever that looks like. And so he just keeps it all in Stenovate. And that, that was my like dream and mission through creating Stenovate, was just like, how do we turn every court reporter into like a page producing powerhouse so they can live their lives, like, so they don't have to miss their kids' soccer game, and they can actually take a bubble bath and not feel guilty and not be stressed out about like, oh my God, I need to get out of the bath because I have to go scope that 50 pages, so that's what, the whole goal is of Stenovate. It's to get your life back, get a team, get organized, get your life back.
Right. And I know Mike is loving it. I can just, see him now. And Mike, if you are listening, I have not forgot. I'm just going to remind you, TED Talks. So I told Mike that I would love to see him on a TED Talks because he has that energy. He has that fire. He loves steno. I mean, when you have a one-on-one with Mike out and in person, like, he will just motivate. If you're one of those reporters that are in need of some encouragement, some just motivation, call Mike.
I just did. Like last weekend, I was in a rut and I needed some advice. And I tell you what, he lit another fire under me. And you guys, I'm telling you, you're seeing version 1 right now of Stenovate. We got a long ways to go, and it's only going to get better and better. Yes. So I'm telling you, I'm here for you guys. We're going to do this.
Right. And so I spoke 2 weeks ago, and I think I said this in my opening. I spoke at National what was it? North Carolina Court Reporters Association. And I was speaking about quality, and I came up with this phrase, and I just feel like it can be a cheer right? So Mike used to be in a band, right? But I just feel like this cheer, delegate with Stenovate, delegate with Stenovate.
Yes.
Delegate with Stenovate, right?
And do it appropriately with like people who aren't going to ghost you, right? So I haven't even told you about that, but so, we're designed specifically to be able to find great help. And part of that is because we have a community vetted rating and review system. So court reporters leave reviews on these scopists and proofreaders who are in Stenovate, and vice versa. They can also leave a review on the reporter. And it's not like, oh, did you write clean enough that day? It's really like professionalism, timely payment. Did they get this stuff to you on time? And it's really been fascinating, absolutely fascinating for me, at least to like, I see all the reviews, in Stenovate, and anybody else can too, but I am just floored by like how many scopists and proofreaders are out there that are doing amazing work and have 5-star reviews from multiple reporters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, for anybody who thinks that there's not great help out there, it's not true. There's already like over 90 reviews in Stenovate. And I just, like, I get energy from reading about like all these reviews that are like, so-and-so like truly helped me in a pinch. And I was ready to cry and they got it done and I could breathe again. And I'm so grateful. And I'm just like, that community is just, it's, I don't know, it's life-giving to me. Like that is so good. And I'm so excited to see people using the tool in that way. And I will tell you, I have seen a court reporter change a review too. And, say like, well, my first experience with this person was great. And they left the really nice original review. And then they ended up going back and doing an update and kind of like lowered the stars, and it's like, oh dang, but like people are using it. And I'm shocked that I don't get people like griping to me about things, but I'm loving how professional everyone is being with it. And they're speaking their truth. And it's like, we're finally able to start. And I don't think people join when you are a bad apple because they know that system's there. So we're not getting scopists and proofreaders who are just like not going to show up for people and who are going to drop the ball. And if they do, well, sorry, but you might get, a review that says you're not reliable. And so that's just the way the system works. And I'm loving like the professional transparency. I just think that's such a critical part of what we needed to be able to find great help.
That is so amazing. And I consider you to be a steno game changer. And the definition for me is a steno game changer is someone who is adding value to the profession. There was a time where all we did was just focus on, the work. We didn't have all of these other platforms. And I consider you as a steno game changer. And I have something in the works for the game changers. So I'll be getting with you on that, on this new idea that is just going to shake the profession up, right? On a new level.
Yay.
Right? So with you being a steno game changer, doing something new, what did you do to get Stenovate up and running? I remember an article circulating and you were in the news. So can you share with that in regarding to steno startups? So this is like,
gosh.
Again, I'm working on something with women in tech. We are technology, and you just opened up a new door. And I want to say you received some type of funding. Can you please explain, because this is something new that some may not even know. Again, the innovation, just taking steno to new levels. Go ahead, take it away.
You guys, this is the craziest part, of all the things that I've said, Italy, Peru, whatever. This is the craziest thing I've ever done, because I am telling you, I had no idea, none about what I was getting into when I started Stenovate. I really thought, oh my gosh, I could, I'm making enough money now as a reporter. I bet I could scrape together $10,000 and find a developer who could build a website that could solve so many problems for court reporters. And I was really passionate about that, knowing like how overworked and stressed out and, all the things that we talked about earlier. And I was like, man, there's gotta be something better than like duct taping all these tools together. And so I started, kind of like doodling up, on the back of a napkin, like what I thought this tool needed to be, and started talking to people, and just was so naive, so naive. I mean, and I'm not trying to kill anybody's dream. If you got an idea, by all means, go do it. But if you think that software, complex, really useful software tools get built for $10,000 with a single developer, I'm telling you, just don't do it. Like, don't start, because that's absolutely what I thought. So I actually kind of got, I was talking to enough people about it here in Kansas City that they were like pushing me into doing like these little pitch competitions. And it was just for like small amounts of money, like $3,000 or, that sort of concept. There was a $20,000 grant that I pitched for, and they told me no. And I was sad, but they said, go think about these 6 things and then come back. And I'm really glad they did that, because it gave me a chance to process it all more. And then I got into this little pitch competition that I had to talk about. It was really fun because I get to talk about steno. And so I explained, what court reporters are going through, and that they need help, and nobody's advocating for this like business side of things, and we need better business tools. And so I pitched this. I had 3 minutes. I had to stand up in front of a big crowd. It was terrifying. Again, no idea what I was getting into. And I ended up getting $25,000 in development credit from a local development company here in Kansas City. And I thought like, oh my God, we've made it. Like, amazing. We're going to get it built. And I'm telling you, you guys don't realize how fast and how little you get for that amount of money in the software development world. It's crazy. Like, we think court reporters get paid good. Like, developers also get paid very, very well. And they're also high in demand like we are. And so anyway, that I'm just telling you, like, investment, all of that is I think I said something was my personal nightmare earlier. I take it back. This investment stuff is my personal nightmare, because I don't take lightly the fact that other people like believe in my dream and helping this community, and then giving us, money to make that dream a reality for stenographers. Like, that's no joke, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have had some, after these pitch competitions, and realizing like we still, like, we're not there yet. Like, we got to keep iterating on this, and we need feedback from court reporters and scopists and proofreaders so we can build the best tools for them. And right. So, just that whole process of like gathering feedback and then iterating on something, like, that takes time and money. And so we, it did end up going to some, angel investors and asking, if we could, and this is like the part that makes me so squeamish. Like, I hate that side of things, but I think that's part of the misconception too with Stenovate, is like, oh, that Lauren Lawrence girl, she went and got a bunch of money because she wants to make money off of court reporters. And that makes me sick to my stomach. Right. Like, it really does. And I want to make it very clear that like, we very carefully chose like the angel investors is what they're called, that gave Stenovate money. We were very much looking for altruistic angels who understand that I'm on a mission to help an industry that is overworked and underserved on the business side of things, and who are mostly women, right? So this is like an industry that is predominantly small women-owned businesses, even though I don't think a lot of us think of ourselves that way, but that's what we are. And so I have never taken venture capital, like VCs, if you hear that term. We haven't done that. We've only taken money from people who believe in our mission, understand what we're all about, they get it. And so those are the people who, like, I am, doing my very best to make sure that I'm fulfilling that dream for these people who believe in Stenovate and understand that we want to give, their lives back, the court reporters' lives back to them through being able to like appropriately delegate and run their businesses more efficiently and really have a great handle on, the deadlines and everything. And so that's right. Yeah, lots of feelings there.
Right. I want to know from you. So when you were in the process of all of this, and you got, the pushback that you just mentioned, that Lauren girl, like, did you feel discouraged at any point during, did you feel discouraged?
3,000,000,000%. Like, it is so hard to like field social media posts, like when I'm trying to just share what Stenovate
Mm-hmm.
is, and people don't really get it, but it's because we're like, it's kind of complex. It's like I said,
Mm-hmm.
this freelance marketplace plus project management tool. Like, what does that even mean? Right. And so, people, I don't know, they can be mean, and like even, court reporters, like one court reporter to
Right.
another. And that's so painful when like, I wish they could feel like in my heart of hearts, like what the goal is here, and understand that it's like, I'm not just this, random person who's trying to like make a
Mm-hmm.
profit. Like, that's not what this is. Like, this is like, no, how do we build business tools for court reporters that again make us page producing powerhouses, and also on the flip side of that, like help keep our professional life, because like if we can't cover jobs, that's when
Right.
digital start to creep in, right? So it's like, how do we efficiently use our time? And I can't remember the gal's name that you said, but she is so right. Like, our one job should be being on that machine, like produce those accurate transcripts, get out there and cover the work. The rest of it can be delegated and carefully reviewed to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that like when
Right.
you put your name on that certificate, that you're really proud of that product that you're producing, but you can save so much time and still be really proud of your work product if you have a team under you.
Right. And yes, her name is Brenda Counts, and she has a
Yes.
work husband, which is her scopus. I want to say
Yes.
she has been with him for 17 years. It's something crazy like that.
That's
And
amazing.
they get each other, and she takes really good care of her scopus. I can sit on the phone with Brenda for about 3 hours. Whenever we get on the phone, it's never under an hour. And I'm just soaking up so much information. And this
Yes.
lady, she really is enjoying her, 52 years, but she really do have a system in place. Share with us how reporters can benefit from using Stenovate.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we keep talking about time, right? It's like the one thing we can't create more of. There's only 24 hours in a day. I know Ali Hall has a seminar on that and like speaks to that too. And it is just so true. Like, you have to, the whole work smarter thing. I actually like get a little cringy about the cliche of like, oh, work smarter, not harder. But I'm like, it's there, like, there's a reason it's said over and over, and it's tried and true for so long, because if you can optimize your time, it makes all the difference in the world. And so, just all like with Stenovate, you always know what's on your plate. You're able to see, okay, well, what, if anything, do I need to be delegating right now? And then it makes it so easy to delegate that work and do it appropriately with quality help. And then, you can pick up more work. That's the other thing. So like right now, especially while the industry is so busy, I get so sad when people are like, well, I have to take a couple of days off to catch up on my backlog. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just delegate the homework and then you go, cover more jobs. And so I'm just all about like organically combating the court reporter shortage, if you will, like through efficiency. And so I think when people can do that, like court reporters can work 5 days a week, freelancers. And I know some people are going, ooh, 5 days a week, like that's a lot. Like, I only like working 2, or I like working 3, or like 4 is my absolute max. But if you think about it this way, you're really just maybe getting dressed up to drive somewhere, if you even have to go anywhere on Zoom, right? Like with Zoom right now. And then like your depot might be 2 hours. So it's like you were going to stay home and probably scope more than 2 hours that day anyway. So it's not really like you're not working more. In fact, you might be working less, but you're still able to cover jobs 5 days a week. And I guarantee you, any agency owners listening to this, like their ears are perking up, because they're like, oh my God, we have the hardest time covering our books. I talk to agency owners and they're like, we are like buried. And so I'm just all about that. Like, spend your time where you gained your skill, which is on your machine, and then figure out how to do the rest really efficiently.
Right. Okay, so let's role play. And I want you to share with us how reporters, give us like a step-by-step rundown on how the portal works. So I come across Stenovate and I'm signing up. Can you just give a step-by-step process because again, we want reporters to, start using this platform so we can start covering jobs and we don't have to worry about, the shortage, the digitals and everything else. Let's put a system in place so we can, cover these jobs that need to be, covered. So, okay, I signed up with Stenovate and you go ahead and tell us the step-by-step process.
Okay. Well, step one, as you're signing up, we ask a couple questions that are really critical. Like, what is your job title? Court reporter, scopist, proofreader. And then you pick which one. And then it also asks if you have any secondary job titles. Because, sometimes I know court reporters who they primarily report, or they, scopist maybe, or I'm babbling here, sorry. So you can do more than one thing is what I'm trying to say. So a scopist can be a reporter can be a scopist, etc. So it asks you for both, do you have any secondary jobs? And it asks you for your CAT software. So are you on CaseCat, Eclipse, ProCat, StenoCat, Digital Cat, etc. And then once you're in the system, you can actually go search through the network of people, so your LinkedIn side of it, and you can actually filter by job title. Like if you're looking for a scopist on Eclipse, let's say, then you can go in and do that. And then you can see this list of people with ratings and reviews. And then if you want to click into anybody and go that layer deeper, you can see a professional profile picture. You have usually filled out an about section or a little bio. And then they also have those ratings and reviews right on their profile. And in addition to that, a lot of them just upload their rate sheet right to their profile too. So that's just easily accessible. And then we always encourage court reporters who come in to upload a preference sheet. And if you don't have one, we have a free resource where you can actually just take a quiz. It's actually super fun to communicate all your preferences through this quiz. And then it spits out this customized preference sheet. And so a lot of reporters upload their preferences to their profile. And so it just creates this very symbiotic relationship where you can review scopist and proofreaders and decide if you want to talk to anyone, and then vice versa, they can review reporters and reach out, and then also download that preference sheet, which is awesome. But we also have job boards, which actually functions similar to Facebook, but there's a few special things and a lot more stuff that we're going to be adding to the job boards, which is super exciting. But it is anytime that let's say a case catalyst reporter post looking for help on the job board, it actually alerts case catalyst scopist. And so that is the way that it works. So that way people are notified and you can get jobs covered faster. And I will say one of the things that I wish we would have done different that we're going to be updating is that sometimes it looks like those job posts go unanswered because they won't comment directly on the job post. They'll actually reach out privately through chat. And so sometimes I think people come into Stenovate and are like, oh, these jobs aren't getting covered, but we actually reach out on the back end a lot and say, hey, did this get covered for you? And they're like, oh yeah, I had, 6 people messaged me and it was great. And then I, picked one. And so I will say, if you go looking in there and it looks like things aren't getting covered, they are in fact. And it's just so exciting to be able to help in that way. And then once you have browsed your people, or if you just want to stay organized for yourself, there's that project management side of things. And so you can go in and add transcripts to your own dashboard and see the deadline of everything, how many pages everything is. So you always know what's in your backlog. Every job that you add has its own individual collaboration workspace. So you can kind of think of it it almost creates a Dropbox folder for you when you add the job. And then it's broken down into areas where you can upload files, you can message each other, you can update progress. That's another thing reporters love is when they are working with scopists and proofreaders, and instead of having to reach out and be like, hey, I'm getting a little nervous because I haven't heard from you. And, if a scopist is scoping along, a lot of Stenovate scopists will actually say hey, I'm done with 50 out of 200 pages. And so then you get a little progress notification update that they've said they're done with the first 50. And so it just really helps the whole team stay on the same page about what is where and kind of when things can be expected back. And the court reporter sets the scoping due date and the proofing due date. So they kind of walk it backwards from their own deadline. And then it's just really nice because you have this like very clear sequence of events, if you will. And so it's just, again, we thought of all of these things for like, well, what are the things that I would need to write down or put into my Excel spreadsheet? And that's all just living in Stenovate. And so that is the kind of step-by-step scenario. And then court reporters also get notifications like when files are uploaded and when things are marked complete, and then it's ready for review for the court reporter. And then, you know, if that relationship went really well and you want to use that person again, they're just right there on Stenovate, and you can send them job offers anytime without going through the job board. You can just shoot a job over to them after you've added details, and they can look at it and say, okay, it's 200 pages. It's due back in 4 days. They can either accept it or decline it, and you go from there. And it's just quick and easy.
I love it. It sounds like an amazing platform. So for the reporters that are terrified to use a Scopus, they pretty much can walk in and give this a try. You haven't had any Scopus like ghost, anyone, have you?
I'm trying to think. I know that we've had some people reach out and say, hey, this happened to me or that happened to me. And we always point them back to the ratings and reviews because that's what they're there for, right?
Right.
So that happens on Facebook all the time, but I feel like we hear about it so much less in Stenovate because of that rating and review system. And then if somebody does, I mean, by all means, you can go leave them a review, and then other reporters know,
No, not to use them.
Yeah.
You know what? Lauren, so that's even good. Oh my goodness, because now, oh God, you're getting me just so excited because this goes back to my friend who could not locate, this Scopus, and she didn't know if anyone, had used her or anything. So just this whole, rating and review system on Stenovate, this is even, this is a huge plus.
Yeah,
there it is, right?
Totally. It has been, like I said, so fun to see the ratings and reviews come through and see people making connections and feeling really good about who they're hiring, hiring with confidence. And that is, I just think that's so needed in our profession, especially when there's just a huge amount of trust that goes into like handing somebody your transcript. It's like, okay, are you going to do a good job? Are you going to be professional? Are you going to get back to me? Are you going to ghost me? And so we really help baby step, through all of it with people. So if you're scared to do it, don't be scared. Like come in and just give it a try. There's a 30-day free trial. So anybody can sign up and poke around and, I would say really dig in too, and just try adding a job to the dashboard. Like, I think people sometimes sign up and then they just don't ever go give it that old college try. And I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're missing. And those that do get hooked. Like they are like, I'm bringing all my Scopus and proofreaders. Like, let's go. Like we're ready to crank.
Yes, I love it. Now we have been talking about freelancers. So is this a platform that officials can use as well?
Absolutely. It does not matter. And, when people sign up, they can say whether they're freelance or official, not that it really matters. I know that some officials produce less pages because if it doesn't appeal, maybe they don't need it. So don't need to produce it necessarily or scope it. But yeah, I know tons of officials that are on it and are loving it because they're so backed up right now. So it's for any type of reporter.
Right. So we have been talking about working smart and not hard. If you're tired of being overwhelmed and overworked, this is a platform for you. And so you are advising that reporters can basically reclaim their lives and have more free time. Holidays are coming up. If you're a sports mom and you want to attend those games, but you have a rush job, you are saying that this would be the platform for a reporter.
100%. I get the people who want to hold it all, close to the vest sort of thing, but scoping is just such a time suck. Okay. It's just for every hour that court reporters are on the job, they have an hour of scoping. So if you go take an 8-hour depot, then you have 8 hours of scoping to do. I think most people say on average scope about 20 to 25 pages an hour. And obviously it's different if you're real time and, extremely clean and you're not like listening all the way back to the audio and stuff. You go a little faster, but it's still so time consuming. And that's time you could be spending on your machine or doing anything else. So yeah, I'm just bubble baths, books, gardening, whatever tickles your fancy. I don't know, playing jazz music, whatever.
Right. And then our next thing, quality, right? So one of my, during my presentation when I was speaking 2 weeks ago for North Carolina, I brought up, ways on how we can save our profession. In our last podcast episode 26, it spoke about quality, right? Quality is, I want to say that's one of the top ways that we can save our profession. Quality matters. I even created shirts that says quality matters, and it has our steno machine in the middle of it. I haven't launched or did anything, and I've just been plugging away with, just ideas. But again, in our last episode, Anissa Nirenberger, she talked about quality and why it just, was just so important. If you're that reporter that, if you're focused on your real time cleaning up your writing, you're going to definitely stand out from, that other method of digitals. What can you add in regards to quality that is needed in our profession?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't need to tell you or anybody else listening that it's so important, right? We really are the guardians of the record, and we undoubtedly are the most reliable, most accurate method of producing verbatim legal transcripts. I think that's maybe a big hang up for a lot of court reporters with using a scopist or a proofreader. They freak out about like, oh, what if they don't do a good job? Well, to be frank, it's your job just to review that work. You become a boss, you put on your boss hat and you have to do some quality control, if you will. But I guarantee you over time, if you're working with teammates, and you're doing those quality reviews, and then you get to that place of trust, you can still create amazingly accurate transcripts with teammates and keep that quality extremely high, with this trusted team of individuals that, you vet, and you can find like community vetting from other reporters too, who can vouch for that person. And it's so important to make sure that you are doing your due diligence with your teammates. But, Stenovate makes it so much easier to do that. And, at the end of the day, it's your name on the transcript and you want to be proud of that. And you can still just do that while saving tons of time. So do it and then go be on your machine. And yeah, I'm rambling, but it's just, I get passionate about the quality because like you said, what Anissa was saying is so true.
Right. I get it. Okay. So Lauren, you know what? You are just such a boss. And I just think you are just so amazing. I am so proud of everything that you are doing. And so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a quick commercial break and we will be right back.
After teaching over 100 scopists and proofreaders and working for 200 plus court reporters, I know what you need to be a great scopist or proofreader. We have a rough count of 1,800 scopists, even fewer proofreaders, for the 20 to 50,000 court reporters that are actively working in the United States. There's a high demand for qualified scopists and proofreaders. This bootcamp gets you started to become an in-demand freelancer living life on your terms. This bootcamp costs $799 and is held on average once a month. No more than 8 spots per class. Send me a DM or private message to see if this bootcamp would be a great fit for you or a friend.
Okay, guys, we are back with the lovely Lauren Lawrence. Lauren, what advice can you give reporters, again, to those that are listening and they're just tired, they're ready to check out. They're just, want to leave the profession behind because they're overworked and overwhelmed and tired, and they can't go anymore. What would you advise?
You know, get help, get help, get help. Like, really, that's my answer to the burnout is, you know, striking balance in your life and, you know, making sure that you have a system in place that's really easy to, you know, see where you might be bogged down. So you can kind of predict, okay, like I need help now because, you know, this, what I thought was a 50-page job today turned into a 300-page job. And now I'm feeling overwhelmed. And that's when you got to, you know, be able to strike that balance and outsource and figure out like where you need to maybe rearrange some things, and ultimately being able to like find joy in the profession again by not being so burned out. So however you can do that to strike that balance, that is 100% my answer. You know, find those inefficiencies and correct them.
Right. Outsourcing, delegating, whatever it takes to win your time back. Any advice for students struggling in a profession? And before you answer this, I just want the new baby reporters to know that it is highly suggested that you scope your own work for the first few years, right? Before you bring on a scopist. Lauren, are you in agreement with that?
100%. I think I think everybody's goal should be real time, rough drafts, expedites, that, you know, you don't get like cold sweat hands like when an attorney says like, can I have that tomorrow? Like, you know, that's the goal, is to like have that clean writing and be able to do that kind of work. And in order to do that, you have to build your dictionary. And so, you know, shout out to Anissa again, because I just love what she does with Dictionary Jumpstart and all things with dictionary building. And so I would say, yes, like hold off on the scopist while you build up your dictionary. I do think it's okay if you need to find a little bit of help at some point, but you have to know that finding those teammates take time. It's not just easy to do like super quick one-off, you know, I mean, you can, but just, you know, really focus on that writing and making sure you're prepared, you know, for all the on the job stuff before you really start outsourcing too much. I will say, go find yourself a proofreader, like a really good proofreader. Scope your own work and build up that dictionary. But a veteran proofreader was a game changer for me as a new reporter, because she ended up teaching me so much stuff about transcript punctuation and quality and formatting. And I mean, yeah, those proofreaders are godsends for new reporters.
Right. Now, where are we finding proofreaders? Are we just going to the
Stenovate? Same thing.
See, there you have it. There you have it. Yes. I love it. Okay. Yes. Any advice for students that are struggling in school?
Oh man. I mean, you guys, I'm sure you've all heard, you know, practice over and over and over. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, so to speak. But, you know, mastery just really does come over time, and you got to put in the time. And so I'll just kind of leave that lie, because you've heard it before, but really, you know, mastery is where it's at. And then also, you know, if it's testing stuff again, just remember to let those horses run wild. I'm talking about horses a lot. Let your horses run wild. Don't beat a dead horse, you know, but really own your ponies and practice and just let those emotions flow. They're good.
Yes. Now, how do you protect your peace within this profession? I am curious to see, how do you protect your peace? You can have a lot of naysayers, negative Nancys.
Yeah, gosh. I'm a huge fan of meditation and yoga. And yoga in the sense too, that it's not just the asanas, the postures that people typically think of as yoga, but the more like the way of living. And so, you know, I can't stress that enough as being kind of my personal way I protect my peace is through meditation. You know, I'm going to throw another app out there. I love Headspace. If you guys are, you know, wanting to get into meditation, that's one way. I also think not just with steno, but life, like just being resilient, you know, being able to let things roll off your back. And I know it's easier said than done, but at the end of the day, you're only answering to you. And you need to live your truth, right? Not somebody else's truth. Let the haters be haters. Like, go do what you set out to do and chase your dreams. And,
Yes.
and gosh, another thing, John and I talked about this over our coffee this morning. And I told him, I'm putting this on my mirror. So who you were yesterday doesn't have to be who you are today or who you are tomorrow. And I think, there's so much stuff about personal brands and defining who you are and all this talk about the self and ego and all of that. And I don't think, let me take a step back and just say again, who you were yesterday does not have to be who you are today or who you are tomorrow. It's okay to shift. It's okay to try something new. It's okay to try a new technique. And just, you might be self-talking to yourself also in a way that's saying oh, but I'm this and this and this. And that doesn't have to be true today or tomorrow, so it's at any point you can make a shift. And so I think that's a really great way to practice resiliency and letting things roll off your shoulders. So it's well, just because somebody said that, first of all, doesn't make it true. Or just because you're telling yourself something or you were a certain way yesterday doesn't mean that has to be the way it is when you wake up and put your feet on the ground the next morning. So, put your feet on the ground the next morning and tell yourself, today is going to be a great day. And then just go roll with it. And every morning, just, hey, today's going to be a great day. And I might be different today than I was yesterday. And that's okay.
Right.
And so I love that.
Right. I cannot tell you how many affirmations I have. Just, I wake up before I start my day. I always speak good things over my life. Right.
Yes.
I do that before I go into, my prayer, but I'm always, speaking, because if you don't speak it, right, then all of that negative energy will just take over. So you have to start off with, claiming who you are and speaking it into existence, right?
Absolutely.
So any last minute thoughts that you would like to give to our listeners?
Oh my gosh, you guys, you are my people. I just cannot say that enough. So I am here for you. If anybody has questions about anything we talked about, I know Shanice can answer. I'm also happy to answer questions and be a support system however I can, to professionals or to students. I just love court reporting and all the people who share that common ground. We have to stick together. The job is hard enough as it is, but I really, really believe that through community and smart business practices, there is truly nothing to hold us back. This industry is so busy and the work is there for the taking. We just need to make choices that serve us and, go after all of our dreams. And I really believe we can do that together as a community. And I keep saying community, and of course, anyone is welcome to try Stenovate too. There's that 30-day free trial. And if you guys are in there, you can find me in the bottom left-hand corner. There's a little orange button and it'll send a chat to me. And if it's not me, it's my customer success guru partner, Jamie. And, we're totally there for you. And lastly, Shanice, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I feel like I keep saying community, 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 and you are just such a big advocate of unity within our profession and for the profession itself. And I'm just super grateful and honored to have this opportunity to talk with you today and to share. And just a huge thank you to everybody who's listened. This has just been a blast.
Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness, I appreciate you so much. You are so amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. And you said key word, that whole stick together and unity.
Yes.
I cannot, say it enough. Just imagine if we were just, and I say this often, one team, one goal, steno.
I love that. Yes.
Right? Because it's enough work out there, right? And just imagine if we all helped each other. We're so divided, and To my veteran reporters, I love you all. You guys are filled with just so much information. Continue to pour in to us.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, I want to thank you so much for doing this episode. You are appreciated. And I will be in touch with you. So I thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. You are so welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for taking the time out to support this podcast. This podcast was designed just for you. Without you, this would not be possible. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for every share. Every time you tune in to listen, I really do appreciate. In closing, I would like to remind you that you are the highly skilled stenographer. One more time, you are the highly skilled stenographer. You are fearless, you are powerful, you are strong. Can't no one else do your job better than you. And I just want to remind some of you out there, just don't forget who you are. You have so much power that no one can take away from you. You hold all the cards. Until next time, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.